Good morning, friends. Adab, Sat Sri Akal and Namaskar. This is my 204th video, and this is about a bungalow, 5 Stalway Road, Pune. This bungalow, as well as its owner, Mr. Bhojwani, was very close to me since he was a Rotarian in my family, being a Rotary family. We became very close to each other, and he discussed every nitty-gritty about his bungalow, regarding from a word which we will be discussing in his suit, symbolic possession, which he had got in 1992. So let's go by the first records what he dug into, which is very important to understand. And this specifically I am talking for Pune bungalow owners. If they can actually go into this registrar office of the Haveli, Mr. Bhojwani dug into his first auction, which was done by the Nazar Adalat Pune district on 28th June 1842. Now the claiming is that 1812 the Pune cantonment was carved out. Now this bungalow, 5 Stalway Road, was actually auctioned by an auctioneer of the government, Mr. V.B Joglekar. Now this document is lying in the Tehsil. Now further, Mr. Vishnu Bhai Joglekar, he further sold this bungalow on 17th July 1842 to Shri Malhary Sayaji Lakde. Now the records are available in Tehsil. If you can verify, the registry number is 4490 of 16th July 1842. So if we dig into the records from this registry number in prior, like the Pune Ghaswala, he dug into his records. Now Shri Malhary Lakde sold the bungalow on 15th April 1880 to Shri Nagendra Guru Gosavi. This is again in the Haveli Tehsil number 418/A at page number 11 to 13, volume 96. So now let's have a presumption that from volume 96 and prior, we have another 97 volumes lying in the Tehsil office, or has the DRO or the Tehsildar or the sub magistrate of the Pune district filed an FIR of any of these records being lost. Now Shri Malhary Lakde sold the same bungalow on 15th April 1880, which I just said to this Gosavi. Now Nagendra Gosavi further on sells this bungalow on 19th November 1882. Now he simultaneously is even mortgaging this bungalow because it was already brought under a mortgage deed by Ganesh Dikar Lakde. So that means 5 Stalway Road was auctioned. It was even mortgaged in 1882. Now coming to when this mortgage deed was to be made reductant on 21st January 1883, the payments were given back and this mortgage was relinquished. Again, this record is available in the Tehsil office. Now Nagendra Goswami sold this bungalow to Shri Mehrwan Dhunji jamshejee on 13th November 1884. Now the document is lying in Tehsil number 1400A, page number 242, book number 1, and on 19th November 1884. So this registry is there. So we can all dig into these records. Why today I am particularly talking of this bungalow and 5 Stalway Road? Because Mr. Bhojwani really worked hard and he dug into these records. Now Mr. Goostadjee Dhunjee Shaw, the executors of Dhunji Jamshedji, further sold it to Jamshedji Dhanjee Shaw on 25th August 1912. Tehsil number 1293, same on 26th August 1912. Now K. Khusro Jamshedji Modi sold this bungalow to Mr. Gulchar Jahangir Baksh on 17th October 1927, registered with Tehsil number 2188 at this joint sub-registrar Haveli. So everything is available. Now what is the problem with bungalow owners in Pune? First of all, after Bhojwani ji, I don't know what Mr. Kering actually spread a word and how the whole show turned. You know, people in Pune actually, either they are too smart or I would simply say they're too uneducated. You know, our war is not on petty of Mr. Kering's 10,000 rupees donation or anybody's else, or whether the pill went into the conclusive thought of what the pill was filed in 2012-13 by Common Cause's Prashant Bhushan in Supreme Court. We have to be more concerned about our records, more concerned about the land which we possess. Some bungalows are on sale, some bungalows are on lease, some bungalows have construction notices. I have all the data. Everything is available today on online. And government has particularly shared these sites with me. Particularly all the list of every cantonment court cases is with me. So what's the big deal, yeah? Now Mr. Gulchar Jahangir Baksh, his inheritors, Mrs. Dosa Chinoy and Mrs. Eva Dastur, they sold this bungalow to Reva Chand's Bhojwani Trust, wider sale deed, registered at 47228 of 95, book number, on 30th August 2001. So we have this long history of ownership in this bungalow. So what is the actual story? So the first sale deed of 1884 speaks of bungalow numbers in Pune, Cantt, and not in military cantonment or alone cantonment. 1884 even mentions that Colonel Pajta was in occupation as either a tenant or a lessee as per the Governor General orders. Now bungalow number 5, it is very important, written in one of the registries, had a compound, within its compound, had major big halls, servant quarters, gaddi khana, and had 3 entrances from 3 sides of the road. The sale deed speaks on the west side is a bungalow owned by Shri Ganesh Dikar Lakde, from whom he purchased in 15th April 1880. So there is a merger in these bungalow. Now, 5 Stalway was either divided. On the east side, there is a bungalow Mansram Bhau Naik Thakde. On west side, there is Dharampal Wadgari. Now we need to understand, if we all can, how do we vet this registry in the court? On one side it says it has 3 roads and 3 separate entrances. And further it says on its west side, east side and the second west east side, we have 3 bungalows. So on one west side we have 5 Stalway subpart only and the other we have. So we people in Pune cantonment all can get together. Let's have a small doing. Don't pick up 2 very senior advocates or even an advocate. Don't do that. Anybody would just go to the registrar office, sit down, find a man who can get you these documents, because every office of record rooms has a clerk or has a boy or a man who is willing to help people to locate their records, and he charges for that. So we can tell him that we want in this sub-registrar of Haveli book number, volume number 146 and 248 records from 1884 backward. So let's start backward. 1884, 1883, 1882, that way we'll go downwards until 1842. It could be prior also. So what we have to see, these registries somewhere don't wet. And I have a superb Supreme Court judgment which very clearly says, Privy Council, which says to prove the ownership, if the document speaks of what is on your west, east and south is confirmed, even the bungalow sitting on the west can claim that registry, that since it mentions my name, I am the owner, I am the actual inhabitor of the property from that date. So he can also use it in Evidence Act. But I told you, this man actually ruined the entire Pune association. You know, Pune people, and some days back, I had uploaded a list of donors who actually then Mr. Bhojwani paid 2 lakh rupees to the association then for filing of the bill. So please dig in your land records. Now when late Dhunji Dhunjee Shaw Jamshedji died on 18th May 1900, his will was probated by a court order of Civil Suit 85 of 1901. Now coming to the judicial record rooms. Now there is one which is the land record, that is called the Tehsil. Now there is even a judicial record room where you can find the Pune Ghaswala case, where you can find this court order of 85 of 1901. Again, Pune people can get together, they can substitute a boy even in that. So any of these rich can actually, undermine an employee and say, okay, fine, you are doing for the next 1 month this job. I did it in Ambala in 2008 because I was researching. So to research and to dig into, you must know the facts, how things were happening in those days. 1800, 10, 20 or later. So this is how documents have to be exhibited. This is how documents have to be brought on record. When you are going to fight your cases, Pune people, please live into this, that Pune Ghaswala case is your department's trump card in the cantonment there. So please don't live in this fancy that anybody will manage. I have a judgment of Pune cantonment where one of the bungalow owner won his grant case. But that has to be worked out. So, we people can only be that we can dig into these records. Now, we will talk of the registry, what Mr. Bhojwani had dug in of this Jamshedji. Now, this registry somewhere is a little dangerous. I had a bungalow owner who approached me that Mr. Das, all my sale deeds are private. But somewhere in his line that I grant. So these words, in Pune Ghaswala case, it was sanctioned, grant. Now in this case, the line is rules and regulations of tenure of land in Pune cantonment. This will kill this bungalow owner 5 Stalway Road. This is a very dangerous line. This sale deed is selling how many properties? 5 Stalway Road, house number 2419 East Street, Pune. Anybody in the civil area, please get in touch with me with this document. House number 16 Main Street, Pune. Very interesting, this bungalow is even being partitioned by a wall in between, which is bungalow number 15 and now bungalow number 16. There is another sale deed of house number 303 Main Bungalow. There is another property mentioned in this very sale deed owned by Jamshedji Shaw, Wadia Lodge of Mahabaleshwar, which is further registered in the sub-register of Satara. So once you are digging these registries, you may get a lot of registries within, because a lot of bungalows were commonly owned by some people. So the schedule here writes, all piece and parcel of land or ground situated in cantonment of Pune with bungalow and dwelling houses with all outhouses standing thereon in 5 Stalway Road, Pune, sub-registrar. This document could have been with whom? The cantonment magistrate after 1864. So does that cantonment magistrate is signing these documents if of 1842 or 1860 or whatever? That is very important as an evidence. So 1927 sale deed even speaks of land, headment, premises subject to military rules and regulation. See, everywhere we do one thing nice and the other part is taken away from us. So now our advocates are unable to interpret these things. In Poonawala case, it was that his registry speaks of a sanction by the Commander-in-Chief. So sale of a cottage, stable, houses, building, gardens, trees, hedges and drains, estates, rights and titles and interest. So, well, let's, all the legal luminaries of Pune cantonment and the richest can always dig into their advocates and say, find these words in the TPA Act, find these words in various acts made by the Britishers. What does stable, what does house, what does building, what does trees, hedges, easements, estates mean? So these are subject to the rules of the government of Bombay or cantonment committee, now he writes. So the one thing is clear that Pune was a part of the cantonment, subject to the rules and regulations of the government of India or government of Bombay or cantonment committee in force regarding to the tenures of lands in Pune. Now the sale deeds gets diminished in 1927 by statements like this. So when 1842, 5 Stalway Road was being sold, it was already on hire and later also it was put on hire in 1939 on 27th March and for a meager amount of 210 rupees. So the bungalow was in possession with the department, and now comes the story that from 1939 and in 1972, they issued a resumption notice to the original owners of Mr. Baksh. Gulchar, what was the owner's name? I would just read it back. It was Gulchar Jahangir Baksh, and further his daughters came in after the resumption. So we need to understand in 1971 when an amount of 2300 was paid, and very willingly these two daughters accepted this money and they say we accepted the same in protest. So the resumption stands complete. Now what is the resumption? Now here for the first time the GLR speaks of this bungalow that it has an area of 3.53 acres. And what is resumed? 3.05. What is the happening? What is the difference? Now that means there is some area which is being left, that is 0.48 acre of the land is being left with the owner. Now 1939 lease either would speak of 3.05 acres, which is with me, which Mr. Bhojwani shared with me. Now what happens is when the ladies of Mrs. Baksh, they are not understanding the resumption order is for 3.05, not for 3.53. Now there is also a very amazing thing that this bungalow was a grant under GGO 14 of 6th January 1827 under the Bombay Presidency regulation. So that means this is not a grant under GGO 179 of 1836. So now when we come down to 2010, when the resumption notice in 1971, then the GLR is speaking of 0.483 acres is B3 land and the same GLR in 2011 when the department makes and tenders is speaking of 3.05 is converted into A1 land. So it's very interesting. This bungalow as a grant which the department says cannot be divided. We cannot subdivide the grant. The government is itself dividing this grant. 3.05 goes here and 3.48 goes there. So very interesting, this bungalow goes up to a court case and there is a writ, SLP filed, and then PT and Glacia's case is taken and a relief is garnered. So now the DO and the department, they are filing a suit for possession. Now the suit for possession is for what? 3.05 acres, but the balance is already with the owner. I remember when Mr. Bhujwani was in touch with me, he showed me a letter where the department, after this court case of possession, actually wrote to him, which I'll be discussing in my second video, that the symbolic possession is with Mrs. Buck's daughter, Books, or whatever those Chinoy and those girls were. Now, though they had sold it in 2001 to Mr. Bhujwani. So, I kept insisting on the word symbolic possession with a lot of judgments. But here, we bungalow owners sometimes don't want to believe into my acumen and don't want to believe into my hard work. Because I am not wearing a black coat, I am not representing Supreme Court or High Court or the law court. So people think, okay, Ronnie ji, you are a researcher, remain a researcher, you are not a knowledgeable man. Accepted, yeah. So Mr. Bhujwani was little reluctant and he kept discussing his team of advocates because he himself was a chartered accountant. So he could understand the law either also. So very unfortunately, during that period only, I yet remember I forcibly told him, start parking your vehicles in that part of the bungalow, school vehicles, which he did. I came to Pune after that and those vehicles were parked. I have the photographs. So I told him, take it, just bar it out, take the bungalow, because the military and the army cannot barge into that bungalow. But unfortunately, Mr. Bhujwani died. I tried to talk to his brother, I tried to talk to one of his son who's an advocate, but they all were so reluctant. I'm surprised. I'm just surprised and shocked how we people can behave. I'm not saying I'm doing charity. I'm not saying that I'm going to educate you people without anything. But when it comes down, I am educating people. If you people can't watch these videos and understand them, so it's not my fault. I have brought you to a level, I remember when 2008 I started, or people had not even known or seen their journal land register. People didn't know that the registries of the Cantonment Act started from 1864. They had a hyper notion of 1910 or maximum 1924. Nothing above that. So bungalow owners, this is a bungalow which is resumed and there is a court case. I bet if this resumption notice and the family of Mr. Bhujwani stands by me, I am guaranteeing one thing. The entire bungalow will be back with Mr. Bhujwani. There is a very major discrepancy in their case. So we need to know that, and why some people, they must be objecting on my videos. Mr. Das, why don't you spill that discrepancy? Sometimes when you educate an uneducated person, let's say I am making him cram A for apple, B for boy. I bet he's going to make a mistake. I bet his lower court advocates will make a mistake. That is why I tell you, because I have read more than about 100 cases of cantonments. I have dug into all their subjected judgments, starting from lower court till high court to Supreme Court, recently in the last some cases. So do you know why even after such beautiful judgments on admission deeds, on Evidence Act, on shifting the onus, on law of estoppel, specific relief act, General Clauses Act, TPA Act. These are the acts which actually finally come and culminate into us. So that is why I say all this. Otherwise, I have no notion. I only want you people to win. So I request if Pune people can get together. I purposely came up with this video so that you dig into your land records first, dig into your judicial records. Some people will say, what will this make a difference? This will make a difference. Every cantonment can do this. Whether it is Allahabad, Barrackpur, Sikandrabad, we need to dig in our old records. What actually judgments went through 1900, 1910, especially people in Landore, Dehradun, Clementown. They'll be surprised, prior to Landore, Dehradun was a cantonment. It got abandoned, but then Garhi Cantt was kept as a cantonment. Why am I saying this? Is a little remarker and a note for a case being fought by Mr. Narang there. There are judgments of Dehradun cantonment way back in 1880, 90. These are going to hamper you. So please, people, wake up. We really need to get up. We guys are old grants. Stop claiming yourself as owners. The GLR says we are old grant. The law says we were old grants. We were supposed to be converted into new grants, either through resumption or through GGO's resumption of 179. We were not. And if we are a grant under GGO, we are a new grant. We are a regularized grant, which we are not. So we'll do this again. This video will continue. This is part 1 of 5 Stalway Road. Thank you.